So the word Kabbalah does not does not intrinsically mean mysticism. Kabbalah means received tradition, and we can use it in many contexts. A person might say, "I have a tradition from my teacher," or if a shochet is certified to shecht, he is given a Kabbalah. He's given an ordination from an authority and the like. Nevertheless, Kabbalah is often used to refer to a mystic understanding that was handed down all the way back, not even from Moses, even before Moses, going all the way back from Adam HaRishon to Abraham, then to Moses. And these were esoteric traditions that were not shared with the average person. When God gave Moshe the Torah, that was designed to be shared with all of Am Yisrael. But the mystical, esoteric traditions were limited to the saintly and the wisest among us, and they did not necessarily share them for hundreds and hundreds of years. It was only with the authorship of the Zohar by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that there was a feeling of making these teachings more accessible. And then later, with the advent of the Hasidic movement, which was many people joined the Hasidic movement, whether it's regular Hasidus or later the Chabad branch, Kabbalah became, or at least aspects of Kabbalah, became more and more accessible. So obviously, hardcore Kabbalah is still only understood and only learnt by the greatest and most saintly. The average rabbi even is not necessarily going to be so involved in Kabbalah, and yet there actually is a feeling, even among non-Hasidim, and certainly among Hasidim and among Sfardim, that the basic teachings of Kabbalah are now important for every Jew to connect, because the greater the darkness in the world, in a world of decadence, immorality, secularism, hedonism, materialism, the greater the darkness, the stronger the light. And therefore, the mystic ideas, which are the powerful light of trying to understand godliness, becomes more necessary in a decadent generation than maybe it was when the world was not so bad. So when the world was not so bad, our bubbies and zadis, maybe they needed Kabbalah a little less, because they lived in a better world and they could live a holier life. We, who are trapped in a very, very dark world, it is thought that we need a more powerful light. And that's why you will find that there has been an expansion of Kabbalistic learning, even for the popular masses, much more so than previously. Now, again, I hasten to add, you have to be very, very careful to get it from authentic sources that are connected to the tradition. The very word Kabbalah means the received tradition. So when you have ersatz mystics, so to speak, who are simply kind of making up their stuff and bringing in things maybe from Eastern religions or other types of amalgamations, there's a very, very great danger that you're getting a false product. And when you're getting a false product, not only will it not help you, it may actually hurt you. So one has to be very, very careful and selective in choosing who you go to. But still, I think it is fair to say that Kabbalah can be very, very deeply meaningful to a person's spiritual journey. And the reason it is important is because we live in a world where the physical seems to be the ultimate reality. I look around, I see tables, I see chairs, I see cars, I see computers. But what Kabbalah teaches you that there's a reality beyond the reality. That the things that you think are so real and so significant are simply masks, veils, curtains for an underlying reality in which everything becomes unified in the ultimate presence of God. And that's a tremendously important idea, because number one, that obliterates the separations between people. I look at you and you're different than me. You have a different body, and I look at you as different, and therefore I can maybe not care about you as much. But if Kabbalah teaches that everything is a mask for a higher reality in which everything is unified in God, then quite literally, when the Torah says, I should love my friend or my neighbor the way I love myself, it actually means I love my neighbor because he is myself. He is me. We are all rooted in the totality of the divine. So Kabbalah educates a person to understand that what looks like disunity, what looks like separation, is all an illusion, as everything is ultimately united. Kabbalah also is a very important lesson in the fact that we matter to God and we matter in the world. For example, let me just give you an example of how Kabbalah changes your perception. We know that God gives us mitzvot. And we know that God says in the Torah, if you do the commandments, you'll get rewarded. If you don't do the commandments, there may be a punishment. Now, when I read those verses, it seems to be just about me as a private individual. I do good, I get something good. I do bad, I get something bad. Kabbalah brings a whole different orientation. Kabbalah basically says, when you do good, you affect, because of the oneness that you have, you affect the entire spiritual structure of the cosmos. When we do bad, we wipe things out. It's not just about me. That's kind of an egotistical idea. Oh, I do mitzvahs because I get a good deal out of it. I don't sin because I don't want to get a bad deal out of it. Now that's fine. If a person is motivated that way, that's much, much better than nothing. Absolutely so. But Kabbalah gives us a whole different understanding. We affect the world, not just the world, the universe, the multiverse, for good or for bad. We make a difference. We are important to God. On some level, although this needs a lot more explanation, God needs us to create the type of world that he intended to create. So that's enormously important, because that tells me I have a role, I have a purpose. And as one studies Kabbalah, one understands the mechanisms of how that works. So in that way, it is technically a very, very difficult study, to be sure, but it can also be tremendously inspirational and tremendously empowering. And as I say, as we live in a darker and darker time, we need that tremendously powerful light to take us out of that darkness.
If you like that video, hit the subscribe button and notification bell below for hours of the best Jewish content online.